It is May 1st, 2024. We are off to a new month here. Wow. Time is just flying by in this wacko world. We have an awesome stream scheduled for today. We've got Pierre, of course, to appear in the House. You have Justin Trudeau, of course, to appear in the House. It's Caucus Leader Day. And Jagmeet Singh, of course, to appear in the House. And that weirdo from the block. There's a lot of tensions since yesterday. With what happened with the wacko debates in the wacko world. And I think that today you're going to see a lot of implosion, a lot of chaos. It's going to be awesome. Something that we've never really seen before. What happened yesterday is completely historic. It's never, ever happened before where you have a leader of an opposition party getting kicked out, but that on its own, historic. And you add on to the fact that the entire party, the entire opposition party, the entire Conservative Party got up in solidarity and walked the fuck out. It's beautiful. Mwah. Chef's kiss. And those who did watch the stream yesterday, remember how much screaming that I was doing. And I do apologize. It is obviously all quite organic, and I do my absolute best to not scream into this microphone. Sometimes you'll see me do that, but sometimes it just gets away from me. Before we do get into it, we are starting a little bit early. I do want to encourage everyone to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel and specifically push this stream out to further people. I suspect that we're going to have a pretty big turnout today, given what's happened yesterday and the amount of eyeballs and just sheer curiosity towards what's going on. But some people are saying, love the screaming. I'm sorry. I do my best not to scream into the mic. I do my best, but sometimes it gets away from me. I am drinking literally this entire mug full of coffee, which, by the way, you can decorate your own mug with these stickers, which is linked down in the description below. We do have a little bit of time to kill before the stream begins. The House cameras aren't even on. Normally they're doing a bunch of, little bit of wacko debates for other wacko reasons, but they're not doing that right now. Caucus Leader Day, there's a lot of preparation, a lot of things that go into it. So we're going to take a look at the debate from yesterday. We have time. We got the meat and potatoes of that. And then we're going to take a look at what happened with the CTV panel with ex-NDP leader Tom Mulcair, who says that Greg Fergus is likely to be fired, and he should be fired from this, which is insane because these liberal, spokespeople, or in his case, NDP Liberal Coalition spokesperson, they historically prop these individuals up. So the fact that you now have the narrative turning on Trudeau is bad, Trudeau's causing our costs of living, we need to get Trudeau out, and the House Speaker is corrupt, it's a pretty big change, and that got reflected in the polls. I'm not going to look at the polls on this channel, folks. I do that on the other channels. I do that on Mistersunshinebaby. I did just put a video out on Mistersunshinebaby Extra, so if you haven't seen that, maybe you can sneak that in before question period starts. But without further ado, let's get into this debate here from yesterday. Just so everyone is understanding, this is the recap from yesterday, the clip that I'm about to show you. Just so we're all on the same page. I don't want anyone coming in here going, I've seen this already. Yeah, I hope you have. I really hope you have.
The year following his decriminalization of crack, heroin, and other hard drugs in hospitals, transit buses, coffee shops, and parks where children play, there has been a record-smashing 2,500 deaths. Will the Prime Minister accept the BC NDP's demand to recriminalize those drugs?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, I just answered that question. What hasn't been answered by the Leader of the Opposition is why he chooses to continue to court extreme right nationalist groups like Diagolon. He refuses to denounce these extremists who don't believe Canadians should
a little crackle in the voice.
Instead, they call for war and tell people to follow their instincts accordingly. The Leader of the Conservative Party is actively courting the support of groups with white nationalist views. It is disturbing, and he needs to stand up and apologize now.
Right now. Colleagues, so soon in question period, it is important that we try to control ourselves. I'll ask the honourable member from St. Albert, Edmonton, please, to allow members to ask the questions and members to respond. The honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I always condemn extremism and racism, including from the guy who spent the first half of his adult life as a racist, dressing up in hideous racist costumes so many times I can't remember.
The honourable.
You can start to see at this moment, he begins to short circuit. And you can see it on his face. You can see it, man. He's like, oh, shit, I don't like where this is going. Oh, my goodness.
Member, Leader of the Opposition, knows that to make an accusation directly at the character of a single person is not appropriate. And I'm going to...
So, backstory on Greg Fergus. He went into this position because the previous House Speaker allegedly invited a literal Nazi into Parliament. And who did they bring in? They should have brought in a Jesus or a Moses, right? But they brought somebody who's sin-free is what I'm trying to say. Somebody who's got a clean slate. Instead, they brought in Greg Fergus, who has ethics violations. He's literally been in the no-no tank and got a slap on the wrist before for having ethics violations. That's not how you segue out of bringing a Nazi into Parliament. So, like, right from the get-go, he was doomed to fail. And I believe I called it. Look, there's way too much footage to go back and to see, where I made that calculated judgment call that Greg Fergus would not last more than 6 months to a year. I believe we're probably at the 6-month mark right now. And bada bing, bada boom, already you have massive Liberal spokesperson that are talking about his resignation. Not me, but you're going to see Tom Mulcair on CTV is saying that he should be, have repercussions, like he should be fired or he should resign because of what happened yesterday. This is historic, folks. I'm not trying to prop it up and blow it out of proportion, right? This is actually historic what happened. There's certain ways to conduct yourself in Parliament. Did Pierre breach parliamentary language? Yeah, I mean, wacko's been said before in Parliament. He didn't use like a slur. He didn't say, WTF, what the fudge, or where's the funds, right? He didn't play on words. Wacko has been used before by other people. Very bizarre for Greg Fergus to pick this hill to die on. And this might very well be where his career dies, right? Is on this hill today. Absolutely insane.
Ask all members to control themselves. I'll ask the Honourable Leader of the Opposition to rephrase this question and to start from the top.
Mr. Speaker, I also condemn the extremism of a Prime Minister who gives hundreds of thousands of dollars of anti-racism money to a Jew hater who has proposed shooting Jews in the head. I condemn a Prime Minister who allows the IRGC, which murdered 55 Canadians, to remain legal. And I condemn a Prime Minister who allows open use of crack, heroin, meth, and weapons in hospital rooms that threaten nurses and on school buses next to children. Will the Prime Minister reverse his extremist policies at the
For those people that are just chiming in, question period has not yet begun. This is what happened yesterday. QP will be starting in 15-20 minutes. This is what happened yesterday. And before I continue the clip here, I do want to ask two things two things of every single viewer in here. The first is I want everyone who hasn't yet to smash the like button, because it would very much help this channel, help this stream get more eyes, okay? You're going to have CTV, Global News, CBC, CPAC. Everyone's going to be streaming this, and they don't have their chats open. They're not a community, all right? So let's take away some of their views and let's bring it home. Your home, my home, our home. Let's bring the viewers home, baby. Smash that like button. Well, I forget what the second thing was. Oh, yeah. Today, W's normally mean, when I say let's get some W's in the chat, that means winning. When I say L's in the chat, that means losing, right? You see that when the Conservatives do awesome. I say drop some W's in the chat goes crazy. We're going to continue that W trend today. But I think in light of recent events, we're just going to change the meaning of the W. It's still going to be a W, but instead of it being for winning, we're going to scribble out winning, and we're going to keep the W, and we're going to change it to wacko. So I just want to make sure that the whole chat is awake here, that you guys haven't just clicked on the stream and fallen asleep. So once you've hit that like button, I do want to see a bunch of W's, wacko, in the chat. All right, let's see some wackos in the chat. Let's get that train going. Let's get the momentum going. Let's all get hyped. Here we go.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the leader opposite is showing us exactly what shameful, spineless leadership looks like. He shakes hands with white nationalists and then goes to actively court the support of those members and has the nerve. Get it together, Greg!
Any idea what you're doing?
Order. I'm going to ask the honourable member from Lethbridge, if she has problems with the chair, that she should challenge the chair in a way. But as she knows, as the honourable member from Lethbridge knows, that by challenging the chair is against the rules of this House. I'll ask the honourable member to please ask her to withdraw her remarks.
Do you have any idea what you're doing?
I'm going to ask you, will you...
And then he mutes the mic, which goes against our democratic right. We pay our taxes. We're contributing members of society. This is our democratic right to see and to hear what is happening on this floor when it's business time, right? If there's a heckler up in the balcony, yeah, okay, mute the mic. It sucks that we don't get to hear that, but that's not part of parliamentary debate. I hate it. It drives me nuts. You've never seen a House Speaker abuse his power more, like an insecure little wacko that Greg Fergus seems to be, to mute the mic and take that privilege, that right, not even a privilege, that right away from Canadians at home. It's not just a stream that I'm pulling up, folks, that gets muted. This is, even if you go on CPAC, even if you're watching the stream on your TV, right, there's an actual station. Like, a CPAC is not just a YouTube channel or a website. They actually have like a cable television slot, if I'm not mistaken. You could watch this on TV if you want, but you'd be missing out on the community here on House of Canada. When you watch this on TV and Greg Fergus mutes the mic, it still gets muted on the TV. It's insane. You've never seen this. It's screaming ethics violations. Put him back in the no-no tank. Put the wacko back in the no-no tank. Let's get some wackos going in the chat. Put the wacko House Speaker in the no-no tank.
Ms. Harder.
You can tell the coffee's kicking in.
You for disregarding the authority of the chair. Pursuant to authority granted to me by Standing Order 11, I order you to withdraw from the House and from any participation.
That's when he kicked the first MP out.
Today's sitting. Now back to the issue at hand.
You are the issue at hand. You are the issue.
Mrs. Thomas, my apologies. Now back to the original point. I'm going to ask the Prime Minister to please as I'd ask the Leader of the Opposition you can start from again and to make sure that he does, to start his question, to reframe it in a way that does not call into the character of an individual member of Parliament. The Honourable Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the leader opposite is showing us once again what he will do to try and earn votes through personal attacks. He shakes the hands of the leader of a white nationalist group, then goes to actively court the support of the group's members and thinks he can get away with it. This is a group that advocates for violence against US LGBTQI+ Canadians, against Hindus and Sikhs, against Muslims and Jews. Diagolong stands against everything we stand for as Canadians, and yet he will not denounce them or what they stand for.
Diagonally.
Shameful, Mr. Speaker.
Diagonally.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, that, like everything else he says, is false. He uses fear and falsehood and this latest distraction because he doesn't want to face the fact that he has become so extreme and radical that even the BC NDP is distancing themselves from his decriminalization of crack, heroin, meth, and other hard drugs in hospital rooms, causing nurses to have to stop breastfeeding their babies for fear that their contaminated air might end up in the breast milk of the baby. Why won't he ban these drugs?
Diagonally.
Honourable Prime Minister.
He won't condemn these groups. Any leader that needs the support of a far-right white nationalist group to fundraise and get closer to power does not deserve elected office. This is a 19-year career politician who knows exactly what he's doing and thinks he can get away with it. It was a choice to pander to white nationalists, not an accident. And it is a choice to continue to not condemn them and condemn everything they stand for in his quest for votes.
I'm going to ask the Honourable Member for the second time from St. Albert, Edmonton, to please withhold his comments until he has the floor. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, it is a choice for him to implement extremist policies that have taken the lives of 2,500 British Columbians every single year. Since the NDP has asked him to reverse course on his and formerly their radical policy, 22 British Columbians have died of drug overdoses. But he continues to allow those drugs to kill the people in our hospitals and on our public transit. When will we put an end to this wacko policy by this wacko Prime Minister?
There it was! W's in the chat, everybody. Wacko policies by wacko Prime Minister. Diagon Alley.
There are a couple of things which are going on here today which is not acceptable. And I ask all members, please, to keep themselves, to control themselves. I'm going to ask two things. One, I'm going to ask the Honourable Leader of the Opposition to withdraw that term, which is not considered parliamentary.
Mr. Speaker, I replace wacko with extremist. He is an extremist.
The Honourable Member to please. I'm going to ask the Leader of the Opposition once again to just withdraw that comment, please. And I'll invite the Honourable Member. I'm going to ask the Honourable Leader of the Opposition to please withdraw that comment and simply withdraw that comment.
I'll replace it with radical
leftist
policy.
I am not asking to replace. I'm asking the Honourable Member
I love that.
Simply withdraw.
Mr. Speaker, I replace the word wacko with extremist.
And then he muted the mic like the little ethics violating wacko does. Good for him. You know what? In hindsight, he's going to replay this clip for the rest of his life and think, this is the moment where I messed up. This is the moment where I should have backed down. I should not have let my ego get in the way. And that's why you're going to be an unemployed wacko. A radical extremist wacko. A radical unemployed extremist ex-House Speaker wacko. Look at him, man.
All right, let me tell you what's going on here. A very
abuse of
feisty, some would say disorderly, House of Commons stage during question period. The Speaker has to keep stopping the proceedings. They turn off the audio, by the way, if you're wondering why there's dead air. Let's listen in again.
One last time. To please withdraw that comment and simply withdraw that comment.
I simply withdraw and replace with the aforementioned adjective.
He kicks him out.
Mr. Poilievre, I have to name you for disregarding the authority of the chair.
So that's regular. That's standard. He has to take that paper out and he has to read it.
From the House and from any participation.
To make it official, he can't just go based off of memory and say it. It's an actual thing. It's like when cops, arrest you and they read their script, right? You can be silent. Anything you say can be used against you. Like it's that type of thing that's happening. Now let's take a look, folks. We got 3,000 live viewers. We got still a few more minutes here before they open up the chambers. Maybe I'm wrong. No, the chambers are open. Oh my goodness. Let's take a look here. But I do want everyone who hasn't yet to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already, folks. This is going to be insane. Maybe we can get 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 viewers in here. It's absolutely wild. And I want to make sure everybody's awake. And you're not falling asleep. I want you guys to hit the like button and get some wackos going in the chat. Let's see some W's. Not just W's, but I actually want to see wacko spelled out. All right, let's get that train going. And without further ado, let's take a look here at what's going on. There seems to be something going on in the gallery because you got members are looking up there.
Honorable colleagues, it's with a heavy heart that I take the floor to express my profound sadness at the loss of one of our colleagues, Constable Jeffrey S. Marcoux.
Oh my goodness.
4 years, Constable Marcoux.
I thought he was resigning, bro. I got goosebumps.
To keep each one of us safe.
I legitimately have goosebumps.
To lose a colleague who is in the prime of his life is hard.
I wasn't ready for that.
To find words adequate to express the tragedy of this loss is simply impossible.
We are all saddened. Our thoughts and prayers are with the family and friends of Constable Marcoux in these difficult times. As they go through the difficult stages of grieving, I know that here in this place, our thoughts go out to them.
Is a complex emotion.
I want to save my shit talking for after this speech.
Starts with recognizing that it's okay to not be okay. That it's okay to grieve. Qu'il est important de se donner.
It's important to give ourselves the time to grieve.
Friends, many of whom who are here on Parliament Hill today, nothing can take away the pain of this loss. Mais sachez,
but know that here in this place, we will honor his memory. We are inspired by his life of service. We will miss him.
Merci.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
All honorable members to stand to observe a moment of silence in the memory of the late Constable Jeffrey Marcoux.
I invite honorable members to rise and observe a moment of silence in the memory of the late Constable Jeffrey Marcoux.
This part always gets me. I don't know what to do. Do I stay silent? Do I fill the void? I don't know. I don't know what to do, folks. Do we have a moment of silence? Is that the right thing? Or can we still talk? That really caught me off guard. I 100% thought he was giving a resignation speech. That got me goosebumps. Do I stay silent? I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Just can somebody in the chat tell me? Okay, I'll be silent.
I thank all honorables.
Whew, that was hard.
Je remercie tous les collègues honorables.
Holy shit.
Statement by members. Déclaration des députés.
All right, here we go.
The honourable member from Surrey Newton.
Mr. Speaker, the strength of our communities is its people, especially those who commit themselves to helping others in need. This past weekend, I attended the South Asian Community Hub's first annual fundraising gala, which was a huge success. Such is a non-profit organization which offers wraparound services to individuals and families facing health and social challenges. Their mission is to foster the well-being of diverse communities in BC by providing low-barrier services, counseling, and advocacy through South Asian perspective in multiple languages. I ask all members to join me in thanking such as outreach team, leadership, and the board of directors, including Executive Director Daljit Gill Badesha and Chair Harman Pandey, for their compassion, generosity, and commitment in making our communities stronger and healthier.
I just want to remind everybody,
From Cyprus.
if you haven't yet, now would be a great time to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't yet.
Multiple sclerosis, with a mission to connect and empower the MS community to create positive change for those affected by it. They have their sights set firmly on a world free of MS. I had the joy of having my wife Kyla and my mother-in-law Donna join me in Ottawa this week for the kickoff of MS Awareness Month. We all know someone who lives with the disease. My wife has connected with staffers, MP spouses, even her hairdresser, that have MS, so that they can share their experiences and their treatments. I've seen firsthand the impacts of MS and the resilience of my wife in her fight with this disease. Some days are better than others with MS, but her fight against it inspires me every single day. In honor of MS Awareness Month, I'm wearing a carnation to show my solidarity with the MS community. Let's work for a better country for those with MS and support those who need it. Thank you.
The honourable member from Windsor-Tecumseh.
Mr. Speaker, I am a proud Polish Canadian, and in this month I am proud to join over 1 million Polish Canadians in celebrating the first ever National Polish Heritage Month. For centuries, Polish Canadians arrived in waves to settle communities from Wilno to Winnipeg, to raise their families and to help build our Canada. They served as teachers, nurses, engineers, and electricians. They built businesses from aerospace to automotive, and they contributed to the vibrant cultural mosaic that is Canada by opening restaurants and cultural centers and churches. And they proudly served our country as members of our Canadian Armed Forces. Mr. Speaker, tomorrow we will raise the Polish flag on Parliament Hill for the first time. And I will think of my Polish school teachers, Pani Zahaluk and Pani Bohus. And I will think of my soccer coaches, Coach Kowalczykowski and Coach Kruba. But most of all, I will think of my parents who instilled in me a love of Polish heritage. To all I say, Happy Polish Heritage Month. Thank you.
The honourable member for Thérèse de Blainville. Mr. Speaker, multiple sclerosis affects thousands of Quebecers and Canadians. The disease generally manifests itself in people between the ages of 20 and 49, people of career-building and family-building age. Fortunately, the number of drugs available to slow or halt its progression has increased considerably in recent years. But we can do more. less than 10% of the funds for MS research go to
use this time, folks, to get yourself situated, get yourself a coffee, get yourself a beverage,
community,
whatever that may look like.
Exploring these new fields of study.
Because Pierre and Trudeau are going to be going toe-to-toe
Awareness Month
in about 5 or 10 minutes.
Carnation to show my commitment to improving the quality of life of people with MS.
L'honorable député de Vaudreuil-Soulanges.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise to speak about Hudson's St. James Anglican Church in my community of Vaudreuil-Soulanges, a venerable institution which has stood proudly since 1842, was struck by a heart-wrenching tragedy on April 14th when a fierce fire devastated the historic structure. For over 180 years, St. James Church has served proudly as a place of worship, a venue for music and art shows, a drop-off location for the collection of food and supplies for those in need, a gathering place where Scouts proudly receive their badges and their accolades every single year, and where generations of couples have said, "I do." It has served not just as a building, but as a pillar of community life, heritage, love, and kindness. Amidst the ashes, unwavering resilience and kindness illuminates the path forward. From the firefighters who fought valiantly to contain the fire, to Reverend Sophie Rolland's steadfast determination to rebuild, to all those that have come forward since to pledge support, the collective community response serves as a powerful reminder that from the depths of despair, we will emerge stronger. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Calgary Confederation.
Mr. Speaker, it is the 100th anniversary of the Royal Canadian Air Force. Today I think of Warrant Officer Lloyd Joseph Stock, who joined the Royal Canadian Air Force in 1940 during World War II at the age of 29. He received his wings in Brandon, Manitoba before going to serve in England. As part of the Coastal Command's 220 Bomber Squadron, he had to protect the merchant marine ships by hunting German U-boats and submarines. It was dangerous work, a lot more dangerous than his job as a florist before the war. On a sortie over the Bay of Biscay in 1942, Lloyd's plane was shot down. His crew had just 35 seconds to bail out into a rubber dinghy. They survived 30 hours in the cold Atlantic before an Australian Sunderland float plane rescued him. In spite of his crash, Warrant Officer Lloyd Stock completed 22 sorties. Sadly, the rest of his crew did not survive the war. Lest we forget.
Yeah. L'honorable député de Notre-Dame-de-Grâce, Westmount.
Mr. Speaker, May is Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Month, an opportunity to highlight the profound impacts MS has on all Canadians, and in particular on the 90,000 who live with the disease. Mais ce mois n'est pas seulement une question de sensibilité.
But it's not just about awareness. It's also about ensuring access to care, promoting research, and to promoting inclusion. Let's learn more about MS and ways to better support those affected in our community.
Thousands of Canadians in wearing a carnation this month, a flower that has become the symbol of MS, of the MS community, and in hope of a future free of multiple sclerosis. Thank you.
I know, we're all thinking the same thing, folks.
The honourable member from...
We don't want to hear none of this. We just want to see the meat and potatoes.
As we bid farewell to the 5th Annual Sikh Heritage Month in Canada, a celebration of resilience, diversity, and the enduring spirit of Sikhism, we take a moment to reflect on the rich contributions of Sikh Canadians and the vibrant Sikh community flourishing in the city of Vaughan and including in my riding of Vaughan Woodbridge. April reminded us of the remarkable contributions that Sikhs have made through Canada's history. They were pivotal in constructing the Canadian Pacific Railway, served with distinction in both world wars, and significantly advanced agricultural innovation. Sikh Canadians are key advocates for human rights and promoting equality. Their unwavering commitment is seen through community-oriented initiatives like the Save a Food Bank and Khalsa Aid. Through their leadership, including in this most honourable House, entrepreneurship and cultural contributions, they are building bridges and breaking barriers and enriching our society. Sikh heritage is carried through the spirit of inclusivity and understanding, which are shared Canadian values. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ka Fateh.
The honourable member from Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of this Prime Minister, drugs, chaos, crime and death rage on our streets. Last year in BC alone, there was a record 2,500 overdose deaths. Since the Liberals have come into power, there's been over 42,000 overdose deaths. In communities across British Columbia, hard drugs are openly used, even in hospitals and coffee shops. Businesses have been forced to close. Parents comb through schoolyards, collecting needles, trying to protect their children. Kicking and screaming, David Eby's NDP government has finally conceded that their Liberal NDP drug legalization experiment has led to death and ruined lives in its wake. This failed, radical Liberal NDP experiment must end now. Full stop. Common sense conservatives will ban hard drugs, stop taxpayer-funded drugs, and put that money into detox and recovery.
The honourable member from Willowdale.
Mr. Speaker,
we're minutes away.
I rise today to draw the House's attention to the horrific and wholesale abuse of justice taking place in Iran. The regime in Tehran continues to wage war on its own citizens. Several days ago, 33-year-old Tumaj Salehi was sentenced to death. An extraordinary hip-hop artist and rapper, Tumaj has simply been demanding that the civil rights of all Iranians be respected. Despite having already endured over 250 days of solitary confinement, Tumaj has remained resolute in his demands. His undaunting courage has inspired the world. Over the last several days, thousands upon thousands have participated in protests across Canada and in other cities around the world. Each member of this House should add our voices to theirs. Tumaj must be set free immediately. We can ill afford to turn a blind eye to the unconscionable impunity of the Iranian regime. Thank you.
The honourable member from Durham.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in the House today out of great concern for all of us who live or work in the Greater Toronto Area. We have learned that Toronto City Hall is requesting that the federal government legalize hard drugs like fentanyl, meth, and cocaine. Evidence from British Columbia already shows that legalizing hard drugs puts the safety and health of our neighborhoods at risk and only increases drug overdose deaths. It is alarming and quite frankly shocking that Toronto City Hall would want to expand the Prime Minister's extremist experiment from British Columbia and bring it to Ontario. We ask that the Prime Minister reject Toronto City Hall's request and instead invest in the treatment and recovery programs that our communities need.
The honourable member from Calgary, Forest Lawn.
Liberal leadership race 2024 is well underway. And Mark Carney is the first out of the gate. He's been jet-setting across the country, preaching his gospel of 4 more years of broken, failed, and woke Liberal NDP policies that have made Canadians poorer and Canada's economy weaker. That's why Common Sense Conservatives moved a motion at the Finance Committee to have Mark Carney testify. When Carbon Tax Carney is coronated as Liberal leader, Canadians should be terrified at his wacko policies to continue to quadruple the carbon tax, continue deficit spending, and hike taxes. It's too bad the Liberal lapdog NDP shut down our motion and chose to protect Carbon Tax Carney, protect this corrupt Liberal NDP government, and protect their leader's pension. It's time for the NDP to step up and show some intestinal fortitude. Have Mark Carney testify at the committee, and for once, hold the Liberals accountable for their record of wacko policies.
Let's get some wackos going in the chat. Holy crap.
Today I rise to commemorate the 140th anniversary of U.S. diplomatic presence in Winnipeg, a testament to the deep enduring bonds between Canada and the United States. Since the appointment of the first U.S. consul in 1869, our ties have only grown stronger, underscored by the consulate's reopening in 2001. This event was marked by U.S. Ambassador Gordon Giffin and Manitoba Premier Gary Dewar, who highlighted our shared commitment to cross-border cooperation and regional development. In 2016, commitment was further solidified when hosted North American Energy Ministers meeting. It was a privilege for my father, who was then the Natural Resources Minister, to welcome U.S. Secretary of Energy Ernie Moniz, along with other distinguished leaders. Their discussions culminated in a memorandum of understanding that enhanced our cooperative efforts on climate change and energy.
As we reflect on the past and look to the future, let us continue to nurture this partnership that not only supports our economic and environmental goals, but strengthens the ties that bind our nations together. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Let's go, folks.
The honourable member.
We're moments away, man. We're moments away.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I rise in this House to acknowledge a historic first for Canadian girls in soccer.
If you haven't yet, now would be a great time to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't already.
Girls are the only Canadian team on their way to Dalian, China, to compete in the International School Sport Federation Football World Cup. This is the first girls team to represent Canada at this Olympic Committee-recognized event. It has been incredible to watch how hard the girls have worked to make this a reality. I encourage all Canadians to give their support to these young women as they represent Canada on the world stage. And it's not too late for partners to support the team to help ensure all girls, regardless of financial situation, can go. On behalf of myself, all my NDP colleagues, and the residents of Port Moody, Coquitlam, and Morin Belcara, we wish you luck. We're proud of you.
Not that it's a competition, but we got more likes on the stream than CPAC has viewers. Just saying.
The honourable member for Manicouagan. Let's mark May 1st, International Workers' Day, together. Let's mark it together and unite so our voices can be heard. It's a chance to remember the gains made by the great workers' rights movements. It's also a chance to highlight the rights that are yet to be won, like the right to EI for everyone who loses their job or whose seasonal work is coming to an end, the right to decent working conditions, including for temporary foreign workers and asylum seekers, the right to earn a living when the cost of living is soaring and there's a housing crisis, but also the right to be valued in the workplace, the right to live, not just work, in an increasingly fast-paced society. For those who can, join the Coalition's May Day March in Montreal. And I would encourage everyone to stand united in the fight for workers' rights.
The honourable member from Thornhill.
After 9 years of this radical Liberal NDP coalition, crime and chaos are the new norm in our Canadian streets. In BC, the Liberals' dangerous hard drug legalization experiment has caused chaos in hospitals, playgrounds, parks, and public transit, which the radical BC NDP admitted last week. These Liberals ignored evidence when they granted BC's request, and overdose deaths skyrocketed by 400%. The City of Toronto is now asking the government to legalize cocaine, heroin, and fentanyl like they did in BC. That means kids in Toronto stepping over needles in playgrounds, more dangerous drugs, more people suffering instead of getting the help that they need. This extremist experiment has failed in BC, and these Liberals should rule it out for Toronto. The minister responsible is from Toronto.
Trudeau
she
for treason.
No today, and she won't because her radical boss won't let her. Ban hard drugs. If they won't do it, Conservatives will. Care, compassion, law and order, common sense. It seems like we're the only party with any of that.
That's right.
Thanks for the super chats, folks. I appreciate the support. The camera's staying where it is.
St. Marie.
Thank you, Speaker. May is Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Month, and MS Canada will recognize this month through a variety of activities and events.
Yeah, you know what? Let's get some wackos going. Get some wackos going in the chat. We're going to be starting here in like 2 minutes.
Supporting and championing for the MS community. Doctors, various healthcare workers, researchers, family support networks, and the entire MS staff and volunteers. I would also like to acknowledge the impact that ordinary Canadians have had through the years through their generous donations. This year, there is an $8 million fundraising goal for the month of May, which will allow them to continue funding critical research and programming that enhances the quality of life for those impacted by MS. Recent breakthroughs in research also gives us hope and will also give confidence to those who are living with MS. We stand on the cusp of new discoveries. Thank you to all Canadians who rallied around the country to raise awareness and to support those living with MS, including my son, Riley.
Oral questions.
Oral questions. Guess who? I was like, I'm a leader of the opposition. There we go.
Unfortunately, Montreal and Quebec are not safe from the chaos that the Prime Minister caused in British Columbia when he legalized hard drugs. In fact, the public health director of Montreal has suggested moving forward with that same legalization. Will the Prime Minister reverse course on his radical position when it comes to legalizing drugs? Or will he impose the same chaos in Montreal that he already imposed in British Columbia? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, let's take a moment here to reflect on what occurred yesterday. You had to censure the Leader of the Opposition because he refused to withdraw his unparliamentary language. He was engaging in political attacks about a huge human tragedy in British Columbia. Now, we, of course, take this tragedy seriously. We act with compassion. We act based on facts and evidence. We will support British Columbia as they transition and adjust their pilot project. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. So, does he rule out legalizing hard drugs in Montreal? Yes or no? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition knows full well that our government acts based on facts and teamwork with provinces. The province of British Columbia requested a pilot project. We're working with them. We studied it with them. We gave them the green light for their pilot project. We have not received such a request from any other provinces. If other provinces wanted to have a similar project, we would look at it and make a responsible decision based on the facts and based on precedent in other places.
Position.
Right. So he is opening the door to legalizing hard drugs in Montreal and perhaps in other cities in Quebec. We're against it.
Minister legalized smoking meth in hospital rooms, shooting up heroin in parks next to children, using hard drugs on public transit.
Yeah.
The British Columbia government has asked him to reverse this legalization for parks, hospitals, and transit. Will he? Yes or no?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the opioid epidemic is hitting families, communities, and individuals right across this country and has for many, many years. That's why we are continuing to use an approach grounded in compassion, in public safety and public health, and facts-based decisions. We responded to British Columbia government's asking for a pilot project. We will, yes, work with them to adjust it in ways that they see fit. It's important to make sure that BC continues to do the things that it needs to do to keep people safe in its jurisdiction.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
He still refuses to answer the question on whether or not he will reverse himself. He made the decision to exempt hard drugs from the criminal law so that it became legal to smoke meth or crack in a hospital room, including around nurses who are breastfeeding their kids. This has caused chaos, and 6 British Columbians are dying every day that he delays. So will he announce that as of today, he's changed his mind and he's reversing his legalization of hard drugs in BC? Yes or no?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, a number of years ago, British Columbia approached us with a pilot project that they wanted to bring in to look at a different way of dealing with the ongoing public health crisis that was hitting British Columbia around the opioid epidemic. We worked with them as they developed this pilot project, and now that they are asking for modifications to that project, we are looking at those modifications, and we will work with BC as they seek to adjust their plans around public health and around dealing with this opioid epidemic.
Biggest largest drug cartel
opposition
in the whole world.
There is no time to waste.
Canadian government.
The BC government asked him to reverse his legalization of crack, heroin, and other hard drugs in public places on Friday. Every day, 6 British Columbians die of overdoses under this policy, and many more die as a result of drug-induced crimes. So there is no time for bureaucratic and political considerations. Will he announce now that his experiment with legalizing hard drugs in BC is over? Yes or no?
It's killing people by the thousands.
Mr. Speaker, you will understand if I take it with a little skepticism when the Leader of the Opposition says this is not about politics, because he has been the one that has been pointing out vulnerable people and trying to pursue ideological aims on this ongoing public health crisis. We have consistently stepped up to work with provinces, with municipalities, with jurisdictions, indeed, including by moving forward with British Columbia as they wanted to try a pilot project, that we are working with them to adjust in ways that make sense. We understand the urgency and we will act.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker.
Dude, you could hear a pin drop on the floor today.
I felt reassured for a while because I was sleeping very poorly, but now things are better. Wait, the NDP, they're going to vote with the Liberals for this budget, but the Bloc, we will vote against it. Now I'd like to read you something, Mr. Speaker, said by Ms. Amira Al-Gawabi. She said, "We are determined to defend the values of religious freedom and equality in our Constitution that are at the very core of our democracy. This is why we challenge this discriminatory and unconstitutional law." Well, Mr. Speaker,
On a dépassé le temps.
the member used all his time. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as a government, we chose to build bridges and links throughout the country. We invested in infrastructure everywhere in the country. That's how we build bridges. But we also build bridges by committing very thoroughly to different communities across the country. We listen to all point of views, and we understand how important it is to defend fundamental freedoms, the freedoms of all Canadians, regardless of their origin, their faith, or their language. And we will continue to be here to stand up for the Constitution and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. That is how we build bridges among Canadians. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Well, we're not talking about the same type of bridges. I am talking about the type of bridge that Ms. El-Gawabi is supposed to be building between communities. But as has been said, the privilege of one is the unfairness or injustice of another. Ms. El-Gawabi and her attitude, as well as the halal mortgages, this will make it such that different communities, Haitian
halal mortgages,
South African communities, they won't have the same privileges. So how do they explain this inequality in privileges? The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Where's the LGBTQSLI plus mortgages?
In a pluralist and diverse society like Canada and
or the
like
kosher
Quebec,
mortgages.
it's important to talk to communities, to hear all of their concerns, and to meet their concerns and help them with them. That's how we have a free, open, and resilient society. We will continue to listen. We will continue to be here to listen to many communities, including the Muslim community in Quebec. They are very concerned about the provincial legislation. We will continue to listen to all Canadians everywhere in the country, and in doing so, we will build a stronger society.
Thousands of Canadians are boycotting Loblaws this month. They're taking action because the Prime Minister refuses to take on the corporate greed, which is driving up prices for Canadians. The Prime Minister has set up a grocery task force, which has done no tasks and has no force. Today, Loblaws reported their profits are up by nearly 10%. Liberal announcements aren't going to cut it. Why is this Prime Minister letting big grocery rip off Canadians?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, like many others, we are concerned with the refusal of Loblaws and others to sign on to the Grocery Code of Conduct, which we know will protect consumers, will protect growers across this country as well. We will continue to impress upon them, using various means at our disposal, the importance of signing on to that Grocery Code of Conduct. We have also increased the Competition Bureau's ability to go after big groceries in terms of the competition or the uncompetitive options they're giving to Canadians. And we've also moved forward on other ways of supporting Canadians through groceries, like with the National School Food Program announced in our budget.
The Honourable Member for Burnaby South
continues to rip off Canadians, and Prime Minister is not stopping them. Les gens savent que...
People know that they are being ripped off at the grocery store. The Prime Minister has failed in protecting people. So many Canadians are tired of waiting for the Prime Minister to take action, so they've decided to boycott big grocers. This is a total leadership failure from the Prime Minister. It is his job to protect Canadians, but he prefers to protect the record profits of big grocers. When will the Prime Minister review his priorities? The right
That's all he
Prime
goes
Minister.
after, man. It's so annoying.
Mr. Speaker, we will continue to work with big grocery stores to ensure that we can increase competition. We also want them to sign on to the Grocery Code of Conduct. I think it's a positive thing that Canadians are expressing their displeasure with Loblaws for refusing to sign on to the Grocery Code of Conduct for big grocers. We will continue to be here for Canadians. We will increase competition. We're also there for Canadians through the school food program, which will help 400,000 more children in Canada study with full stomachs. We're here to support families through these difficult times, and we will always be here for Canadians. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The decision is on his desk to reverse the legalization of hard drugs in British Columbia. The BC government has admitted that it was wrong. They decided not to go ahead with the full 3-year pilot project that the Prime Minister brought in place by exempting hard drugs from criminal law. Will he do as the BC government has done, admit he was wrong today so we can start saving lives?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, from the beginning, we've been there to work on...
It's wild how many premiers are turning on Trudeau.
...public health approach to the opioid epidemic, and that included responding to BC's request for a pilot program. Now that they are asking to adjust this pilot program, we will work with them to adjust it in ways that make sense for them. But given the new, more reasonable tone of the Leader of the Opposition, I wonder if he might take this opportunity to reassure Canadians that he does not support extremist white nationalist organizations like Digalong, nor wants their votes.
Diagon Alley.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, that is false. And furthermore, there are 6 people dying every day in British Columbia. There is a 380% increase in overdose deaths in that province under this Prime Minister's legalization and subsidization of hard drugs. Enough trying to score political points over the issue. Do the right thing. It is on his desk. Will he announce today that he has changed his mind and reversed legalization of hard drugs? Yes or no?
There you go.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. As I said, we're working with British Columbia to adjust their parameters and their desires around the pilot project. We will always be there to work in order to keep Canadians safe. At the same time, I will point out that the Leader of the Opposition refuses to say a simple thing, that he condemns Diagolon because they are a white nationalist violent organization, that he rejects the endorsement of Alex Jones, an extremist conspiracy theorist who denied the deaths of 20 kids at Sandy Hook. These are things that concern Canadians that he should also answer for.
The Honourable
Let's see
Leader
what
of
you
the
got, Pierre.
Opposition.
Speaker, this is the Prime Minister who has to answer for the people who are dying every day due to his policies. And worse still, he's now considering decriminalizing hard drugs in Toronto. The City Hall has made a formal request for him to use powers under the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act to do in Canada's biggest city what he already did in British Columbia. Today, I wrote him a letter asking him to change his mind and reverse his position and make clear that he will not legalize hard drugs on buses and in hospitals in Toronto.
He does not want to answer anything about Diagon Alley.
Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, we see fear-mongering going on by the Leader of the Opposition right now. I will recall for people that a number of years ago, the City of Vancouver approached us with a desire to decriminalize in their city, and we said, no, we would not do that for Vancouver. We work with provinces and public health systems. That is why we moved forward with British Columbia on a pilot project they wanted. In regards to any other province, whether it be Quebec or Ontario or anywhere else, we will work with the governments in place on proposals they may or may not have to deal with the opioid epidemic. That's all.
Lord Trudeau,
the opposition.
You still won't clearly answer the question, Mr. Speaker, which is doubly concerning because Toronto has been overtaken by crime and chaos since he brought in the catch and release policies under Bill C-75, C-5, and C-83. Violent crime is up 40%. We just heard the tragic story on Monday of a liquor store robber crashing into a family, tragically killing a grandparents and a precious child. The assailant was out on bail. Will he repeal catch and release?
I don't think I knew about that.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I believe if you or other parliamentarians or indeed Canadians look at the transcripts of these questions and answers, they will see that I actually did answer the questions the Leader of the Opposition posed to me in terms of how we were going to work with British Columbia and how we would work with any province that came forward with positions to try and help with the opioid epidemic, and we would examine those on their merits. But the Leader of the Opposition has not answered Canadians' concerns about why he will not condemn Diagolon, the far-right extremist organization, why he will not reject the endorsement of Alex Jones, noted conspiracy theory.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, he has not answered the question.
Is Diagonal Alley in the room right now, Trudeau?
Elsewhere. He's using vague references to jurisdictions, but it's his jurisdiction alone to grant exemptions under the Controlled Drug and Substances Act. So, will he admit that his real plan is to take the decriminalization of hard drugs that he imposed on British Columbia and do that in all the provinces and territories across the country?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
No, Mr. Speaker. I think for 8 years, for almost 9 years now, Canadians have seen that our approach on the opioid epidemic is grounded in public safety, in public health, in compassion, in funding frontline workers, and doing things that work to save lives and help people. And it is not to have some sort of secret plan, as he proposes. But if he wants to talk about secret plans, he would probably do well to actually clear the air for Canadians about his seeking for support amongst members of extremist right-wing organizations like Diagolon.
Bro, this is free commercials for Diagon Alley.
That is again false, but the government is now suddenly and only partially changing its message on decriminalization. Prime Minister's Minister of Addictions is out now saying she's waiting for more information from British Columbia on its request to recriminalize crack, heroin, meth, and other hard drugs in hospitals, transit, and parks. Mr. Speaker, there are 6 people dying every single day. What more information does he need?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, there are dozens of people dying every day in provinces right across this country from the opioid epidemic. We could talk about the challenges faced in Alberta. We could talk about the challenges faced in Ontario. We could talk about the challenges faced right across the country. And different provinces and jurisdictions have different approaches. Some work better, some haven't worked as well. We will continue to be there in a thoughtful, compassionate, rigorous, science-based way to work with jurisdictions on directions that work best for them and adjust those proposals and those responses as necessary. That's what a responsible government does.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is challenging, through Ms. El Gawabi, a law of the National Assembly of Quebec and to create a law for a minority within a minority, which did not even ask for a law. It's a religious law. Now, I respect the Muslim community at least as much as the Prime Minister does, but is he truly building bridges by creating privileges, or by creating divisions, rather? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as the Bloc leader knows full well, we, as the federal government, when Bill 21 reaches the Supreme Court, we will participate because we are worried about the impact of Bill 21 on Quebecers. We will have our voices heard then. So yes, we do have opinions, and we will share those opinions regarding how to better protect the fundamental rights and freedoms of all Canadians. That said, we will always work toward offering everyone the same opportunities so that everyone can buy a house, so that everyone can have a better future, because these days young people are really struggling. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers want our law. Quebecers' money is going to the Liberals' huge deficit, and it's going to go toward a court case to fight a bill that Quebecers want. Can he condemn what Ms. El-Gawabi has done and tell her to respect the right that Quebecers have to live in their state?
Is it just me, or is this question period
secular state?
Really weird?
Canada is a democratic country. Quebec is a democratic province.
You can hear a pin drop, man. No one's making any jokes. Everyone is being good boys, good girls.
Their legal system. They can challenge legislation they disagree with. This is what many Quebecers are in fact currently trying to do because they disagree with Bill 21. That is their right as Quebecers to challenge legislation that they find unfair. That's what's occurring. It's fully legitimate. And these Quebecers challenging Bill 21 are not less Quebecois than other Quebecers.
In Canada's biggest city, gun crime is up 66%. It's 100% nationwide. I just shared the tragic story of someone out on bail slamming his car into an innocent family.
Mm-hmm.
2 wonderful grandparents dead. A beautiful baby dead. He was out on bail under the Prime Minister's catch and release C-75. How many more will have to die before he repeals catch and release and brings jail, not bail, for repeat offenders?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I will highlight that we worked with provinces, including many provincial Conservative leaders across this country, to bring in bail reform. We'll continue to work on things that are keeping Canadians safe. At the same time, the leader opposite talked about gun crime. Well, we moved forward with some of the strongest measures on gun control that this country has ever seen. A freeze on the purchase of handguns, a total ban on assault-style weapons that has been in place for 4 years. These are the kinds of things that the Conservative Party and its leader have consistently stood against, even as we move to make our communities even safer.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
He mentioned all these guns that he claims to have banned and promised to seize 4 years and $40 million ago. How many has he seized?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, there are thousands of different types of assault-style weapons that for the past 4 years have been rendered illegal to sell, illegal to buy, and illegal to use, including at a gun range. Mr. Speaker, we are now working on a program to allow those owners to sell them back to the government for them to be destroyed and get money so they can go buy other guns or other products if they want to that will be legal. This is about fairness, even as we move to keep Canadians safe. Unfortunately, the Leader of the Opposition wants to make those assault weapons legal again.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
All those weapons are still legal, Mr. Speaker. You can still own them. The Prime Minister says he's going to seize them. He's going to buy them. He spent $40 million doing that. So I'm going to ask again, how many guns has he bought? Just the number.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as the Leader of the Opposition knows, we are in the process of establishing that buyback program. The priority was making sure that those guns were no longer available to buy, to sell, to bequeath, or to use, Mr. Speaker. And that has been the case for 4 years. Now, what the Leader of the Opposition is conveniently refusing to opine on is the fact that he has committed to the gun lobby across this country that he would reverse the 2020 OIC that banned those assault-style weapons. He wants to bring those assault-style weapons back, or he can contradict me right here.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
I will contradict him because they're not banned right now. It's perfectly legal for people to possess those guns. They are easy to possess, and not one of them has been. The answer to the question is that he has not seized a single solitary one of them. He spent 40 million tax dollars that could have secured our ports and our borders, and he hasn't taken in a single solitary gun. Is that why gun crime has risen by 100% since he became Prime Minister 9 years ago?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I will note, as did everyone in this chamber, that the Leader of the Opposition did not deny that he will be reversing the ban on assault-style weapons. He doesn't even think it exists right now. Well, Mr. Speaker, it does exist right now. It is illegal to buy, sell, or use any of those weapons. When the amnesty ends next year, it will be illegal to own them as well. We're giving an opportunity for people to sell them back to the government. That is what we are doing to keep people safe. That is what he will not commit to keeping.
Great, let's get some wackos in the chat. Let's look alive, folks.
Member from Nunavut.
In Nunavut, the Arctic Children and Youth Foundation administers the Inuit Child First initiative to help kids. But their great work is being made difficult by this government.
How many assault rifles are in the room right now, Justin?
Were not processed on time, leaving traumatized children
so
without
crazy.
the health care they deserve. When will this Liberal government finally ensure First Nations and Inuit children can get the care they need in a timely manner?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
For your question, I absolutely agree that there is more to do. Over the past years, we have made significant historic investments in Nunavut, in the Northwest Territories, in the Yukon, in responding to the health needs, particularly of Indigenous, Inuit, First Nations, and Métis children. We will continue to step up. There is more to do, but my work with Premier Achiaguk and others is entirely focused on delivering more services to young people in a timely manner, more housing, more infrastructure, more health care. These are things we are working on. We will continue to do that work.
The Honourable Member from Courtenay, Alberni.
In the last year, deaths related to the toxic drug crisis are up 17% in Alberta and 23% in Saskatchewan. Every toxic overdose death is preventable, but in provinces with Conservative premiers that don't have safe supply or decriminalization and don't believe in harm reduction, deaths are soaring. Alberta is on a trajectory to have the most toxic drug deaths per capita in Canada by June. Treatment, recovery, and harm reduction go hand in hand. Will the Liberals finally make sure all Canadians whose lives could be saved have access to these life-saving supports?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank the member for Port Alberni for bringing up those stats that show that there are real challenges around the opioid and toxic drug supply epidemic right across the country. Every step of the way, this government will continue to be anchored in a compassionate, evidence-based approach that looks at it as a public health crisis. We will work with provincial governments across all jurisdictions to move forward on measures that support and save lives. That is our commitment to Canadians. That we will continue to do.
The Honourable Member for Saint Leonard, Saint Michel.
Speaker, the federal government is committed in promoting Canadian values such as inclusion, diversity, and acceptance. As elected members of this House, we are all responsible for conduct in this chamber and outside of it. Yesterday, our government called out the Conservative leader for his behavior, for his courting of a far-right, white nationalist extremist group. Instead of standing up
Let's get some more wackos going.
And distance himself.
We found another one.
He has shockingly doubled down and threw.
We found another wacko.
Can the Prime Minister please tell this House what impacts the far extremism and its enablers have on vulnerable communities and Canadians?
We found another wacko.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
What we saw yesterday from that side was unbecoming of anyone who aspires to leadership. His refusal to denounce far-white nationalist extremism will not be overlooked by Canadians.
Far-white nationalism?
Pose real and dangerous threats to marginalized communities. This is not something as a country we can stand for, and on this side of the House, we never will. Unfortunately, that leader cannot say the same.
I'll get back to this at the end of the House and with this question period, but I encourage all members to continue. Perhaps from the last question, to continue in the positive vein, which I think Canadians have noticed that members have been taking today. The honourable member, leader of the opposition.
2 years ago, the Prime, after having doubled the rent,
something's off today,
mortgage payments, and doubled the needed down payment for a home, the Prime Minister promised in his budget that he would double home building. Here we are, 2 years later, and home building is down 8%. His housing agency says it will be down next year and the year after that. If it cost him $89 billion in programs to bring home building down, how much would he have to spend to bring it up?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our housing plan is focused on fairness for every generation. We, over the coming years, will be unlocking 3.8 million new homes by cutting red tape, by rezoning, by lowering the costs of home building, by using public lands and vacant office buildings to build affordable housing for Canadians. We will be reviving the dream of home ownership for young Canadians by making it easier to save up for a tax-free down payment and giving renters credit for their monthly rent payments towards the ability to get a mortgage. We've put forward the most comprehensive, ambitious housing plan this country has ever seen.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The only thing it doesn't do is build homes. Since he made the most recent promise in 2022 to double housing construction, the number of builds is actually down and expected to continue to drop next year and the year after that, according to his own housing agency. Yet, he says we should all be assured because once again, he's spending tens of billions of dollars on the problem that he created. So can you tell us, in what year will home building actually rise? Which year?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
This is weird, folks.
We know well that the federal government has an important role to play in ensuring housing starts across the country and ensuring the opportunities for Canadians to buy their first home, to move forward up the equity ladder. These are things that we know we have a role to play in. But we are not alone in that, Mr. Speaker, which is why we are challenging and encouraging municipalities and provinces to also step up with ambition in our national housing home building plan. This is why we're putting incentives on the table. We're putting investments in the pockets of municipalities, including with our Accelerator Fund. There is more to do, but we will be doing it in partnership.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
That's what he's been saying for 9 years. And the result has been double the rent, double the mortgage payment, double the down payment. And just this week, a survey showed that 72% of Canadians who don't own a home believe they never will. Canada was not like this before this Prime Minister, and surely it won't be like this after he's gone. The Prime Minister a comment on what it's like to be the only Prime Minister in history to deprive an entire generation of home ownership.
Yo, this has a weird, depressive feeling to it.
The government that was in place before I became Prime Minister had a housing minister who is now the Leader of the Opposition in a government that explicitly said that the federal government had no role to play and no responsibility towards building affordable housing across this country. So for 10 years, there was very little, there was almost no federal involvement in building homes across this country. We turned that around starting in 2017, and we will continue to invest to create opportunities, to create fairness for millennials and Gen Z so that they can buy.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, he did turn it around, Mr. Speaker. 9 years is obviously too long for him because he's starting to attribute to the previous government words he said himself.
Yeah.
He was the one who said the federal government is not responsible for home housing construction or affordability. That is after he doubled the cost. When I was housing minister, we built 89,000 apartments at an average rent of $973. Since then, the rent has doubled, the mortgage payment has doubled, the needed down payment has doubled. So with all this failure, why is he doubling down?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our Housing Accelerator program, our comprehensive plan to build more homes, to make sure that Canadians can see themselves in home ownership once again, is exactly what we are continuing to invest in. Yes, I pointed out that we cannot build homes alone, that we need partners in the provinces and municipalities. But I never denied that the federal government needs to continue to act on housing. That's why we've done that since 2017. That's why we're continuing to do it now. We need to make sure that young Canadians have opportunities their parents and grandparents have. That's what we're stepping up for. That's what he refuses to do.
The Honourable Member for Avignon-La Métis-Matane-Matapédia. Today,
dude, this monotone question period is bumming me out.
Warning. Trans Mountain. With this pipeline, the Liberals are ensuring that our dependence on oil will continue for decades to come. All of the Prime Minister's nice rhetoric will never erase this simple fact. Canada is one of the largest oil producers in the world and intends to remain so. Can the Prime Minister tell us how this $34 billion investment in oil is good news for the fight against climate change? Let's hear it. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, this project is in the national interest. It will create more jobs. It will increase Canada's GDP, and it is fully taken into account in Canada's climate plan. But when we talk about what is coming into force today, I thought my honourable colleague was going to talk about the dental care plan. Starting today, thousands and thousands of seniors will have access to dental care. 1.8 million seniors have signed up, and starting at 1 p.m. this afternoon, there were already 1,200 seniors who'd had appointments, who'd received dental care free of charge. We will continue to deliver for seniors.
Yeah, they must have had a talk before, and they're just being super monotone and
none of the Liberals' climate change measures.
Professional, I suppose, right? Pierre hasn't gone for any zingers at all.
All this government's environmentalist claims will never be as eloquent as its big pipeline filled with tar sands oil. All the carbon taxes, the heat pumps, the planting of billions of trees are simply unable to make up for this $34 billion investment in fossil fuels. And don't worry, the Conservatives will preserve their beautiful pipeline. My question to the Prime Minister, is the opening of Trans Mountain good news for the planet? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker.
Yo, this chick right here, you can see in her glasses, if you pay attention, there's a reflection of this stream. I'm not even kidding.
And help for Canadians.
Someone just sent me a screenshot zooming in.
For our resources currently.
Pay attention when she looks at her phone.
Clearly,
this girl right here in the red. She's looking at this stream.
To reduce.
Let's get a bunch of wackos going in the chat.
We have plans to create tomorrow's
Maybe it'll throw them off their game.
We will continue to do what
She'll pass a note a couple seats to her left to Trudeau.
Those green technologies, that renewable energy, and that future that our children and our grandchildren in Quebec and throughout the country are counting on.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister has already doubled the national debt, adding more to our debt than all previous Prime Ministers in our history combined. With the Bloc support, which has voted for $500 billion in budget allocations, the Leader of the Bloc has never voted against a single one Today we learned that the Prime Minister will continue increasing our debt by $300 billion. This will increase interest rates on mortgages by how much? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we know very well that the plan from the opposition leader is austerity and cuts in services that Canadians need. But on this side of the House, we recognize that Canada is in one of the best fiscal positions in the G7 and the entire world. We have the lowest deficit in the G7. We have the best debt to GDP ratio. And we have the third largest AAA credit rating economy in the world. We are there to invest responsibly because a confident country invests in its people and in its future. The Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's decision with the support of the Bloc to double the national debt means that we are paying $54.1 billion on interest alone on the debt. That is more than we spend on healthcare.
So much debt.
It's the total of GST. So every time Canadians buy something, the GST simply pays rich bankers. Why is he wasting our money on rich bankers instead of on services to Canadians? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. On the contrary, Mr. Speaker, the waste that the Conservatives accuse us of is wasting our money on childcare centres, on more childcare spaces. They accuse us of wasting money on dental care. They accuse us of wasting money on investments in Northvolt, Volkswagen, Stellantis, and Honda to ensure there are careers for generations to come in a greener economy. They accuse us of wasting money by investing in seniors to protect their old age security. They accuse us of wasting because they just want austerity and cuts. But, Mr. Speaker, we will continue to invest responsibly in Canadians. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, families are already living in austerity. The government is living in abundance. People are poor. The government is rich. The more the government spends, the more things are expensive. For example, interest rates are high, and spending and loans from the government are making things go higher. The Department of Finance's public servants, have they told the Prime Minister how much this will increase interest rates on families' mortgages by borrowing another $300 billion? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we know very well that Canadians are facing an affordability crisis. That is why we are there with solutions for them. We've reduced the cost of daycare by half throughout the country. Aside from Quebec, where we've invested in more childcare spaces, we're there to invest in dental care for the most vulnerable seniors, for youth as well last year. We're there to invest in our students, in jobs for the future. We are there to invest in Canadians. The Leader of the Opposition is proposing cuts and austerity.
You can see the super chat.
Approach.
You can see a green tinge in her glasses from the last super chat.
The Honourable Member for Dorval, Lachine LaSalle.
I'm not even kidding, folks.
Since 2015, our government has been committed to promoting shared Canadian values, diversity, respect, and equality among all Canadians. We all learned last week that the Leader of the Opposition visited an encampment. I'm just going to interrupt the Honourable Member. I hope she will have a question that relates to the government administration.
Ooh, she's in trouble.
She has 15 seconds left, but I hope she will get to the heart of the matter.
No.
Minister, tell this House how the government will protect Canadians
from
extremist groups and what responsibility all political leaders have. Thank you.
Kick her out.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. All governments are responsible for protecting the well-being of all Canadians, including Canadians in minority situations. groups who are mistreated, or groups who are typically ignored by the majority. We are there to invest and to protect those people. When someone who puts himself forward to be the next Prime Minister of Canada continues to court extremist groups,
there he goes.
white
Can't help
nationalist
himself,
groups,
eh?
he should at least explain himself to Canadians. Why is he courting those people or condemn them? The Leader of the Opposition.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister is not worth the cost of debt interest. He doubled our national debt, adding more debt than all previous Prime Ministers combined. And now we learn in his new budget bill that he's going to seek another $300 billion of debt, money that he will borrow out of the economy. That's equal to over 10% of our GDP, which will surely put upward pressure on interest rates. How much will all this government binge borrowing add to the mortgage payment of the average family?
Hear, hear. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, allow me once again to set the facts straight. Canada has one of the strongest fiscal positions of any country in the world. Certainly the lowest deficit in the G7, the best debt to GDP ratio in the G7, and it's continuing to decrease. And we are the third largest economy in the world with a AAA credit rating, the top credit rating by the agencies that look at fiscal sustainability of governments. All that is on the backdrop of further investments we're making, generational investments to support Canadians, contrast with the ideology of the Conservatives, which is to leave Canadians to fend for themselves, cuts and austerity.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, we actually have the highest mortgage debt of any country in the G7, and by far higher as a share of our economy than the Americans had during the mortgage meltdown. Now, interest rates are higher, and families risk losing their homes. Government deficits push inflation and interest rates higher. That makes the problem worse. So once again, how much will $300 billion of yet more debt add in mortgage payments for the average Canadian family? How much?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition is mixing different factors that are facing Canadians. Mortgages are high for Canadian families, and therefore the Canadian government is choosing to invest in measures that are going to support Canadian families. I talked to a family from Burlington who actually saw their mortgage mortgage payments go up because of the rise in global interest rates, while at the same time as their child care fees were cut by.
She's looking down at her phone again.
This government made. We're going to continue to be there for Canadians while the Conservative leader wants cut.
my match ain't shit, folks.
Mr. Speaker, the government has a responsibility.
Oops. Okay.
I apologize to the Leader of the Opposition. I miscounted in terms of the questions that we're keeping track. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, inflation and higher interest rates, the cost Canadians pay for the spending that the Prime Minister told them was free. It's not free. Nothing is free. Every dollar he spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians directly through taxes or indirectly through inflation and interest rates. Now he wants to do another $300 billion of binge borrowing. Will he put aside that radical scheme and instead accept my common sense plan to fix the budget with a dollar-for-dollar law so we can bring down interest rates and inflation for Canadians?
Here. The Right Honourable Prime
All right, let's see if there's a green tinge in her glasses if she looks down.
Responsibly, we still have one of the top AAA-rated economies in the world. Our fiscal plan is sustainable and responsible. However, the Conservative leader still wants to make cuts to programs, cuts to our military, cuts to the initiatives.
She's looking down.
Canadians across the country. The things that we are doing are helping Canadians grow for the future in a responsible way, and that's why we're seeing inflation come down and interest rates will be coming down, I am sure, in the coming months.
100% she's going through the comments. 100% she's going through the comments, folks.
Member from Calgary Skyview.
Mr. Speaker, the government has a responsibility
For crying out loud, it's the biggest stream in Canada right now.
Misinformation and disinformation in Canada. Furthermore, the government has a responsibility to tackle hate and discrimination across Canada. And it's shameful that the leader of the opposition posed for photos with extremists who push hateful rhetoric. Can the Prime Minister please tell the House how the government is taking these matters seriously?
There is no bigger platform in Canada than this stream right now.
Prime Minister.
Of course the MPs are watching this.
Every right to be worried about the opposition leaders.
Get a bunch of wackos going. Get a bunch of wackos going. Watch. Her face will change.
Refusal to condemn violent extremism.
Drop some wackos in the chat.
Over his 19 years in politics, he showed Canadians time and time again that he will do or say anything to get elected. That includes pandering to extremists one day and pretending to stand with the very vulnerable communities those extremist groups target the next. Not only is this reckless, this is a failure of leadership.
Yeah, she's scrolling. You can see she's scrolling.
Leaders that will stand up for them every step of the way.
Listen to what Trudeau says. I'm people watching.
From Port Coquitlam.
Anyone with me?
Canadians.
I got no idea what the hell Trudeau just said. I'm people watching.
Conservatives for decades. The result? They can no longer keep up with the costs of living. And the Liberals' solution? $200 a month. That's not even enough for groceries. Exactly. Meanwhile, Canada's richest CEOs are still receiving $60 billion in corporate handouts started by the Conservatives. Right. With the Liberals and the Conservatives, Canada's ultra-wealthy get richer and people with disabilities get crumbs. Why has the Prime Minister abandoned Canadians living with disabilities?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Canada Disability Benefit is a monumental step in our strong and unwavering commitment to creating a more inclusive and fairer Canada. We're now moving forward with the first step of the disability benefit at the cost of over $6 billion over the coming years. It will put hundreds of dollars a month tax-free in the pockets of the most vulnerable persons with disabilities. And
yeah, look at her face. She looks sad. She just saw all the comments.
For generations to come.
Yeah.
100%. Member I'm convinced. Richmond, Arthabaska.
That's the story, and I'm sticking to it.
Mr. Speaker, more than 20 economic organizations in the country have raised a red flag over the major risk of failure in the implementation of a new computer software.
I'm people watching. I'm looking at people's phones. I ain't even listening to these people
Canada
anymore.
Border Services Agency assessments and revenues after the financial and human disasters of Phoenix and ArriveCan. It would be a catastrophe to have a third failure, again costing millions of taxpayers' dollars. Can the Prime Minister tell us whether his government intends to postpone the implementation date and what he intends to do to ensure that this doesn't turn into another IT fiasco that would cost millions? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we are very aware of the concerns from different groups in this sector and from the Canada Border Services Agency. We are working closely to ensure we have a success and so we can set up a better software. We know that digitalization will ensure more security, more efficiency, more speed in our international trade and when people are crossing our borders. So we will continue to advance on this, but we will do it attentively and aware of the risks and also of the positive side of a new software. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Colleagues, I indicated that I would just come back to an issue that came up in terms of a question today that didn't deal with
the wacko stuff,
the business of the administration of government. I'd like to let I intervened on another question which I thought was going in that direction. There seems to have been a correction being made. I want to make it clear to colleagues that the chair and the chair occupants have been discussing this issue, and I think it's very important that all questions that are going to be asked in this House are asked that respect our regulations in our procedures, to making sure that questions are relevant to the business of the administration of government. I refer members to a decision that I made, that the chair made November 20th of last year, and of course there have been previous decisions made by previous speakers along the same lines.
All right. Well, that's where we're going to end it, because we definitely don't want to see a Nazi up in the gallery like we have previously. Folks, if you're feeling like you want a refund, I don't fucking blame you. Oh my God, that was the most boring and dry question period. The most anticlimactic thing. The most anti-Semitic. No, wait, those are protests. The most anticlimactic thing I have ever seen on Parliament. You had all this momentum. We thought they were going to ride that inertia into today, and there was going to be this massive, crazy thing happen. And then Pierre just got up and said this. Why is the Prime Minister not attacking the opioid crisis? Why is this not happening? Why is that not happening? And I read the comments, bro. I read the comments. People are saying, look, it's part of a bigger thing. He's playing chess. You know, he's not giving the Liberals any ammunition. And okay, if that's the case, then bravo. There is no ammunition. There's no clips from even today. I don't even have any clips today. That's how boring that was. But I want to pass the question off to you guys as we approach the end of the stream. Were you satisfied with this? Were you not? Do you think that this was a strategic move by the Conservatives? Or do you think that everyone got put in the no-no tank for the day because of what happened yesterday? Please let me know down below in the live chat. Thank you, everybody, for liking the stream, for being here, being a part of the community, getting things going, keeping things interesting. I think there was probably 20 or 30,000 comments in the live chat in the past hour and 40 minutes. So kudos to everybody who participated in that. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the contributions in that sense to everybody who did. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to reply to everyone. When there is a super chat or a channel member that joins, I try to reply in the chat because I don't want to take away too much screen space from what is happening. But that's where we're going to end it, folks. And I swear that lady in the red dress next to Trudeau was watching the stream. Or I've had too much coffee and I'm a little jittery and I'm delusional. But hey, who knows? We're all wackos these days. I'll see you guys same time tomorrow for another stream. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. Your channel rocks. Thank you, Julian, for that comment. Peace and love, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. Go get some vitamin D, vitamin C, sunshine, whatever the hell that vitamin is.